I cried for days for my mom. When I was old enough, I was painfully branded with searing hot metal. My tail was cut off. My horns were cut off. I was artificially impregnated with a long metal tube. I had my first baby. I loved my baby when he was born for a few days until they came and took him from me. They tied him to a small wooden crate and killed him a few months later for what they called veal. I cried for days for them to return my baby to me, but no one answered. Instead, they took me from the field and plugged me up to machines every day to drain me of the milk meant for my dead child. I'm hurting. There's blood and pus in my milk from the infections. It's cramped and there's no room to walk or graze. I can't eat grass anymore. They feed us grain and corn in troughs. It's been about 7 years. I've had many children, each of them taken from me. My milk production is low. It's time for slaughter, they say. I'm shocked off a truck with an electric prod. I can smell death all around me. I'm stunned so that I cannot move, but I'm still aware. I'm hung upside down with chains by my back legs. My throat is slit and my blood is drained. I'm dying. I was just a milk cow. This is the life and the fate of almost every milk cow brought into existence by the dairy industry, even small-scale operations. I used to deny this because I loved milk. I was addicted to chocolate milk and had it almost every day of my life for about 25 years. I wanted to believe that there were always happy cows and calves roaming relatively freely in green pastures and a comfy milk cow retirement program so that they could live out the rest of their lives naturally. Then I watched 2 documentaries. The first was Forks Over Knives, which focused on nutrition. The second was Earthlings, which focused on ethics. Watching these impacted me deeply and set me on a path to learning and researching more, and I have not had a drop of dairy since. Consuming cow's milk is an ancient cultural tradition, once deemed necessary for survival. It was a clever adaptation, but this is a new age, with new information, new perceptions, and new possibilities for progress. Many things in our history were once deemed acceptable but no longer are, so it's time to move forward. There are serious ethical and health-related implications tied to the consumption of cow's milk, and I want to share some of this information with you so that you too can make a more informed decision about your dietary future. Firstly, there are the ethical problems with exploiting cows for their milk supply. Undercover investigations from the Humane Society, Mercy for Animals, Action for Animals, and Earthlings, as well as many other organizations, have uncovered over and over again that abuse runs rampant within the industry, including kicking, hitting, stabbing, and electric prodding. Cows are left to suffer with open, bloody wounds, painful swollen udders, pus-filled infections, crippling lameness, and other diseases and ailments, often without veterinary care. Cows are injected with a hormone called Posilac to increase milk production, or bovine growth hormones. This increases the lameness in cows, but also increases cancer risks in humans. Of course, cows produce over 80 pounds of milk a day, far much more than nature would allow. However, some will say that this is not true of every farm. What about small family operations or organic farms? Well, even on farms where cows are not kicked or stabbed or injected with drugs, it is still a necessity of the business to take calves from their mothers, selling or slaughtering the males for veal, painfully dehorning, branding, and tail docking without painkillers, keeping cows perpetually pregnant year after year, each time taking their child. And after about 5 to 7 years, after milk production has waned, an exhausted milk cow is sent to slaughter at a third of her normal lifespan. 90% of our dairy supply in this country comes from these so-called spent dairy cow. We slaughter over 20% of our dairy cow population every year, and this just seems downright ungrateful. A cow makes milk for the same reason every other mammal on the earth produces milk, to feed her babies. It is an inescapable truth that supporting the milk industry supports the veal industry and endorses the act of painfully separating mother from child. I talked to someone personally named Megs Austin who works at a dairy farm, and she told me if vegetarians think that drinking milk is okay, I would just have to say that cows are bred, inseminated, and produce a calf. We take their calf. Cows have one of the highest maternal instincts of any mammal. They call for their calf for at least 3 days. A A cow will produce milk for their baby for 6 months on a natural cycle. We milk them for 9 months and then dry them off. We make them have about 1 calf per year. Now, if taking an animal's baby away year after year isn't as bad as eating the meats, then I think your opinion is wrong. The cows are treated fine from a welfare aspect here, but mentally it's hard for them. I'm not vegan, but I can see the reason for the choice. I found this very powerful coming from someone who works in the industry. Then there are the health-related issues with consuming cow's milk that most of the public have been unaware of until recently. According to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, a leading American cardiac surgeon and expert in plant-based nutrition, milk is just basically liquid meat. It's loaded with saturated fat and cholesterol, which isn't good for the body, especially the heart. But also, according to industry numbers, there is as much as a dropperful of pus in every 8-ounce glass of milk, which is caused by the infections cows get from the milking process. This is sterilized in the pasteurization process, but pasteurization is not a removal process. Of course, the industry doesn't use the term pus because this might be off-putting, so they prefer to use the term somatic cell count. To combat these infections, cows are also injected with enormous amounts of antibiotics. Over 70% of our country's supply of antibiotics goes into various farm animals. This has caused some people to become resistant, or even allergic to all antibiotics. Casein is also a serious health hazard. Casein is animal protein and the main protein found in milk, and has been scientifically linked to the growth of cancer cells in many studies now, most famously by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who co-authored the China study and is featured in the documentary Forks Over Knives. He found that you could literally turn cancer growth on and off in controlled test subjects simply by either adding or eliminating casein in the diet. In the most comprehensive and largest nutritional study ever conducted, Dr. Campbell found that populations with the lowest consumption of animal protein always had the lowest mortality rates of various cancers as well as heart disease. According to Dr. Campbell and Dr. Esselstyn, milk also acidifies the body, causing what is known as metabolic acidosis. And the body cannot stay acidic for long or it will die. So what our body does is that it saps calcium phosphate from our bones. Phosphate brings our body back to a natural pH balance, but the calcium is urinated out. The high concentrations of acidic protein found in milk and other animal products cause the body to lose more calcium than it absorbs. This leaves the bones weaker and is one of the reasons this country has one of the highest osteoporosis rates in the world, in spite of also leading the world in dairy consumption. Luckily, there are better sources of plant-based calcium that the body can actually absorb and keep more easily, such as oatmeal, tofu, orange juice, spinach, or simply plant-based milks. Dairy is a hard addiction to crush, however, and it is an addiction. There is a substance in cow's milk called casomorphine, and this is a cow's natural way of keeping a calf close and suckling on her. This is actually a form of morphine. This has a similar effect on our bodies and is the reason we keep coming back for more. It's also the reason we experience that euphoric effect every time we have something like ice cream or milk. The good news is that there are numerous plant-based milk alternatives to help take the place of cow's milk in your heart and help break this addiction. There's cow milk, soy milk, coconut milk, rice milk, hemp milk, flaxseed milk, and my personal favorite is almond milk. I have a deep affection for the Friendly Farms brand of almond milk, and that's found in Aldi's in St. Clairsville for only $2.50 a half gallon. That's just about $5 a gallon, which just is about the regular price for a gallon of cow's milk. There's numerous alternatives for our beloved cheese and ice cream as well. And there are numerous benefits to these alternatives too. There's more calcium in these milks than in cow's milk, and the calcium is absorbed more easily since these do not acidify the body. There's no cholesterol or saturated fat in any of these, and they are often fortified with B12 and vitamin D as well. Depending on which one you get, each one has its own health benefits. For example, flax and hemp seed milk are both loaded with beneficial omega-3 fatty acids. When you make a purchase, you are endorsing a product, a company, and their practices. You are literally making a vote. With a little effort and the will to change for the animals, for you, or for both, we can make a deep and impactful change in our society simply by deciding to vote differently with our money. We don't have to be a society of animal slavery, cruelty, and death. We don't have to give anything up to do it, and we can be healthier for having done it. We have the knowledge and the options now for more humane, healthier alternatives, but only we have the power to make the change.